something Tony Yayo said, Hov don't look out for me like 50 look out for him.
Oh, word? He said that?
I just want to clear that up. Hov don't have to.
All right.
You know what I mean?
All right, okay.
I'm chewing a lie on my own.
Right.
If Hov look out, I'm telling you, I'll be up there.
Right.
So when y'all see me out here, that's the Blizzle budget. But back to you, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I just want to let niggas know Hov don't have to. Right.
During Memphis Bleek's own podcast, Jim Jones just blasted Tony Yayo, and things quickly got out of control. The most absurd thing is that Bleek doesn't even play that kind of prank on Yayo. Everyone is now curious as to what the true issue is and why Jim Jones acted so aggressively in front of everyone. The situation quickly became chaotic. Since Bleek's angle is much simpler to dissect, let's start there. Memphis Bleek has always been Jay-Z's right-hand man. A strong sense of loyalty. Hav's little brother is that. No inquiries were made. However, Tony Yayo has been disparaging Jay for years, and the tension has been building for a while.
Niggas, right? Stack Bundles, one of my favorite rappers in the world.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Right?
Riot
Squad. Rest in peace.
Far Rock.
Yep.
You understand? Jim Jones, he had Stack Bundles, he had Max B. I looked at it like, great. You know, Stack Bundles who had a portion was still in the hood. No disrespect to Jim Jones. Fifth had me in Battery Park. I could walk out that mother.
Yayo once asserted that Jay-Z attempted to stop 50 Cent from performing during the Super Bowl halftime performance, and he has been harboring a bitter resentment ever since. Yayo didn't hold back at all when he sat down with Shannon Sharpe. He dubbed Jay an outright hater, claiming that he just looks out for himself and never helps anyone succeed. The line that sent everything into overdrive then appeared. "Look at Memphis Bleek," said Yayo. "He's not sparkling, he is losing. Don't treat Jay-Z like he's 50. Look after me." The entire room became combustible with that one line. Man, it's crazy to argue over who got the best sugar daddy. Real ones don't move like that. I've always been taught that you can't eat off of another man's plate because your entire crew will go hungry the moment he stops providing for you. Therefore, Jay takes care of Bleek conversation less than everything that 50 takes care of me. That's absurd, dude. Real men take pride in their work, forge their own path, and work hard. Cool if your friend lends you a hand. Be loving and don't stop.
I told him when he G's on Pop, I bug it. Whatever he did, brought another Porsche, BMW. Like, yo, Pop, G's. You said closed mouth don't get fed. G's on Pop, G's I'm hurting.
It's a fact.
And when I told him, I said, yo, go get 25 grand from the bank tomorrow. He like, oh, yo, what's up with that Wrangler truck? I'm like, I left that shit in Brooklyn. I don't even want that shit. I don't even know what block it's on. Matter of fact, it's by the car shop where I got the Maserati from. He like, you let me get that, G's. I'm like, go take it. You probably got to get a new key. He like, oh, I'm going to go get that tomorrow, G's. You different, G's.
However, boasting about who spoils you more is embarrassing. By claiming that Jay only moves for himself, Yayo attempted to make Jay appear self-centered. But rather than coming across as tough, it sounded more like an odd boast about who is getting cared for. In a culture that values pride and independence, that is an absurd appearance. Many weren't feeling it, and Bleek wasn't going to keep quiet about it. He made sure to clean the air when he pulled up to Drink Champs. No sugarcoating, no phony grins. Bleek stated bluntly that he and Yayo had never had a genuine disagreement. They may have even collaborated on a few projects together. However, the atmosphere immediately changed after those cunning remarks.
Just came back off tour.
Yeah.
You know, with Fifth, and we still touring. Still. And I do my own tours too for people. Be like, oh, yo.
You see,
I do my own tours. I did tours in Canada. I did a tour across the whole Germany and the Swiss Alps. And that's why I don't care about the hate. Cause I'm like, I got the possibility to do my own tour. Like something with Memphis Bleek. Memphis Bleek said Nori. Yayo said Jay-Z didn't have us on tour like he did, or I eat my own halal. I eat my own halal too, if you want to say that. To Memphis Bleek, I just came off my last tour. All I'm saying is when you see Jay-Z in a setting, he never really, when he's doing a Beyonce show or whatever, you don't see Memphis Bleek on the stage or him being brought.
Now, the anxiety is genuine. It's not a full-on conflict, but there is a lack of trust. Bleek stated unequivocally that he is not seeking controversy, but no one will play with his name either. Everything blew even more when Jim Jones entered the fray. Memphis Bleek's point was apparent even though he didn't phrase it exactly how he intended. Ignore Tony Yayo. Right up, this is where things get crazy though. Tony Yayo has a history of calling people out when he believes they are not looking out for their group. That blunt, unvarnished, keep it real or don't speak mentality. That's precisely what started the subsequent fire. Jim Jones this time. Everyone recalls the wild days of G-Unit versus Dipset. Jim Jones, Cameron, and 50 Cent. In the middle of the 2000s, it was completely insane. Street tension is growing, egos are colliding, and diss records are flying. It was a combination of absolute pandemonium and fun. The majority of people believe that beef had been forgotten for years. False. Jim and Yayo have resumed exchanging jabs over the past few years, and it goes much beyond music this time.
You know, even if I'm doing the hype man shit with 50, he's bringing me out. I'm making money. I'm going to...
That's that man girl too. That's it. That's Hove's wife tour.
Yeah, that's Hove wife tour.
So if Hove, I believe if Hove was out on his own, he would bring Bleak out. There is no need for him to bring Bleak in a situation where I look like if this was last tour you're talking about with the Cowboy Carter.
Right.
Yeah.
So to me, because I look at Bleak as a loyal guy, like I'm a loyal guy to Jay. But I look at like Fifth, my guy Hervé, one day we had TRL, and it's the Young Gunners there.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to him about it. And Hervé says loud, "You don't gotta worry about nothing. You got 50. Jay-Z doesn't do nothing for these guys like 50 does." And Hervé, I think he worked with them too.
It's intimate. Yayo dropped a bombshell that rocked the hip-hop world when he got down with Math Hoffa to discuss my professional views. He outright asserted that Jim Jones abandoned the Stack packages to perish in the hood. Yes, he used his chest to say that, and the emotion was strong when Yayo uttered it. When he stated, "This is the difference between me and other dudes," you could hear the anguish in his voice. Yes, one of my all-time favorite rappers is Stack Bundles. Peace be with you. Rest in the squad. Far Rock, may you rest in peace. You get it? Tony Yayo began that way before getting right into Jim Jones. He informed everyone that Jim possessed a stack of bundles. He was mentoring Max B, who had genuine talent. However, even as his buzz was getting out of control, Yayo pointed out that Stack was still in the neighborhood, still in the same blocks. At that point, Yayo completely changed the narrative by contrasting Jim's treatment of Stack with that of 50 Cent. "With all due respect to Jim Jones, Fifth had me in Battery Park," he remarked. "I could go barefoot outside, grab the socks. A man will love you then." He described how 50 ensured his safety. Incredibly secure. Even after Yayo's car was burned up and he was shot. F bowed, let go, shot my egg up, and so forth. Fifth grabbed the trainers and threw him over my egg. Official. Because it demonstrated that 50 wasn't just talk. The story struck a deep chord. He truly looked out for his people. The dagger was then dropped by Yayo. "Stack, may you rest in peace." However, Stack was slain while working on a Porsche project. That statement was like a kick to the gut. It presented an image of tragedy, a talented rapper who was trying to escape the same peril while his boss was comfortably lounging miles away. Fans split up right away. According to some, Yayo was only expressing the truth about loyalty and how true employers defend their employees. Others claim that he went too far in bringing up a man's passing to criticize Jim Jones. In any case, that interview stoked a fire that no one anticipated rekindling. Jim failed to protect Stack as he ought to have, according to Yayo. And the way things ended could have been influenced by that lack of affection. That is a serious charge that pierces the history of two individuals who once referred to one another as brothers. It's not mere gossip. Here's a brief overview of Stack Bundles for those who aren't aware. One of Jim Jones's day ones was Stack, an unadulterated skill reminiscent of Far Rockaway, Queens. The man could light up any microphone with his charisma, enthusiasm, and razor-sharp bars. Jim mentored him, signed him, took him on tour, and gave him access to things that other rappers could only imagine. Nevertheless, rumors that Jim didn't do enough have persisted for years, despite all of that. That perhaps, just possibly, Stack's story might have been different had he been pushed out of the hood earlier. You see, Stack Bundles died in the very streets that he was attempting to conquer. Hip-hop is still plagued by that tragedy today. Jim could have done more to get him out, according to several people. Some contend that's unjust. People sometimes stay where they feel most authentic, even if it puts them in danger. Regardless of how much you try to help, you can provide someone with the design, the necessary equipment, and even financial support for their endeavor. However, it makes no difference if they aren't prepared to relocate. When you desire someone's success more than they desire their own, it hurts. And that may have been precisely what transpired between Stack and Jim. A mixture of loyalty, love, and annoyance. However, subtlety is irrelevant to the streets. Jim faced harsh criticism for allegedly stealing everything from Stack stuff, including the talk, the drip, the vibe, and the swag, and passing it off as his own. Stack Bundles was that man. Let's face it. He could have easily been seated next to an idol, Rocky, during Paris Fashion Week if his life hadn't been cut short. He was so much ahead of his time. Pure New York energy, pure confidence, and pure drip. However, things quickly became violent once rumors circulated that Jim Jones had stolen the sauce and abandoned Stack. Jim, however, refused to back down. He disputed all of it, claiming to have done everything in his power to support Stack. He opened doors, took him on excursions, gave him money, and showed him the ropes. Jim, meanwhile, claims that Stack simply wouldn't give up the streets. And that's why the pain was so intense. Jim couldn't save him. But that's not to say he didn't care. Jim's visage displays Stack's name each time it is said. That pain is still there. His tone shifts as his voice gets tighter. That loss is profound, regardless of how many years go by. One thing is certain. Jim takes everything related to Stack very personally, regardless of whether it is the reported $25,000, the GWA problem, or any other rumor circulating. Jim therefore interpreted Tony Yayo's public remarks about it as outright disdain. Not just any rapper was hurling insults. Someone was bringing attention to a personal injury. Thus, the tension began as soon as Jim sat down with Memphis Bleek and Yayo's name was mentioned. Bleek made an effort to maintain composure and act as a peacemaker. However, Jim was ready to speak his mind. Jim left. No holding back, no filter. He made it clear that no one in his group is going hungry, and that the whole debate about who is the better sugar daddy is just absurd. The atmosphere in that room quickly altered. The anxiety was palpable via the screen. Jim wasn't merely protecting his reputation. He was standing up for the name of a loved one, such as a family member. Fans immediately questioned, are we seeing the start of another rap war? As that old Dipset fire returned with a bang. Jim went into full flex mode after Yayo's name was dropped, boasting about his wealth, cars, and victories, stacking them up like a scorecard. The crazy part, though, comes after. Jim was never even called broke by Yayo. Jim was good, he said literally. His main argument was that Jim's neighbors don't appear to be eating the same way as him.
Perhaps the entire situation wouldn't have blown out the way it did if Jim had noticed the message rather than seeing it as a jab. However, it ended when he felt mistreated. That pride from Harlem kicked in. Sharp voice, locked eyes, Jim yelled out, "Isn't anyone feeding me? I started from scratch when building this. He's not living off of anybody's plate," he said, maintaining his firm stance. Jim stood on business, saying nobody's, not Jay-Z's, not 50 Cent's. However, he turned it back on Yayo instead of cooling off, claiming that he is too dependent on 50, trapped in his shadow, and unable to move without him. At that point, everything changed. It became intense tension instead of a conversation. The studio's air quickly became dense. Jim was gone. But Memphis Bleek made an effort to keep things cool by interjecting brief remarks to diffuse the tension. You could tell that this was about more than simply Tony Yayo, as emotions took over. This was the culmination of years of annoyance. All the parallels, the sly remarks, and the rumors that he is not looking out for his people. Jim finally lost it and yelled that he was self-made, wealthy, and strong. He boasted about his lifestyle, automobiles, and figures. In reality, though, it had little to do with money. Respect was at issue. And furthermore, he was not in the least degree backing down. Yayo. He retaliated silently but ruthlessly by posting Jim's longtime rival, Max B, on his Instagram story rather than venting online. Just the image, with no words or caption. The internet was immediately blown up by that one post. The fans went nuts. Yayo was being called petty by some, while others claimed he was playing chess rather than checkers. There was a sharp division in the culture. Yayo's team said he simply revealed what everyone else was afraid to say, while Jim's supporters strongly supported him and said he deserved everything he had. It was like adding petrol to a fire when Max B posted it. Kaboom! And it illuminated the entire scene. And that was particularly painful for Jim because Max B's wound hadn't fully healed. Yayo's involvement with Max B went beyond simple trolling. That was blatantly provocative. Jim immediately retaliated by going live, chest out, and speaking loudly. He warned, "Don't play with me," and said that Yayo was only using his name to remain relevant. "I've actually been outside." Jim made sure that everyone in the audience understood that he wasn't the test subject. His face was displaying a great deal of disdain. Not only from the Max B article, but from the way Yayo's story circulated online. Suddenly, supporters took sides. G-Unit versus Dipset. The second round. Overnight comment sections devolved into miniature rap battles, while others fired back. Others yelled at Jim to stay in the box. Yayo is being honest. Everything is in disarray. Old heads from both sides also got in, posting cryptic messages and old videos as if they were from 2005 again. However, beneath the cacophony, there was still a glimmer of truth in Yayo's statements. He wasn't trying to show off. It had to do with leadership.
Because if your team is still having difficulties, what good is it to be wealthy? Fans were most affected by that. Jim wasn't attempting to hear it, though. He reiterated that no one was starving around him, his staff was doing well, and his papers were sound. He reminded everyone that for years, he's been putting people on. He continues to feed the block today, from Bird Gang to the Lobby Boys. It was more than simply trolling when Yayo included Max B in it. That was a clear trigger. Jim immediately retaliated, going live and shouting out, "Yayo is just using his name to remain relevant," he said. "Avoid playing with me." He made sure everyone knew he wasn't the one testing by saying, "I've been outside for real." His disdain was evident not only from Max B's tweet, but also from how quickly Yayo's story spread online. Fans were split into two groups within a few hours. Round 2, Dipset versus Gunnet. Comment sections become battlefields. Jim is still the capo beam, whereas Yayo is being honest. All over social media, there was anarchy. Even originals from both sides joined in, posting cryptic messages as if the feud from the early 2000s had returned. However, despite all of that chatter, Yayo's statements included a kernel of truth. He wasn't talking about money. It had to do with leadership. That really got to the supporters, but Jim wasn't having it. After all, what good is wealth if your team is still having trouble? He reiterated that his team is eating, his guys are strong, and no one is hungry around him. He reminded everyone that he has been entertaining people for years, from the Lobby Boys to Bird Gang, and that he continues to do so now. Jim stated unequivocally that he will not allow anyone to alter his legacy. Yayo continued to use slick shade, laughing emoticons, mysterious subtitles, and videos of 50 discussing loyalty in the meantime. Jim was really affected by that because Yayo's link with 50 ran for decades. Regardless of the situation, Yayo has consistently supported his man. It goes beyond rap now. It's a real-time conflict between legacy, loyalty, and ego. Both men were proud. Both have hordes of eager riders. Additionally, if they fold, both stand to lose something. The only question that remains is whether it will pour off the microphone or remain on wax. In any case, every post, live stream, and movement is being watched by the streets. This might mark the beginning of a brand new Gunning versus Dipset period. Remember to subscribe, share, like, and comment.